G'day, and welcome to Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined today by the Astropub, and we've got a special guest, NonStopBops. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Happy to be here, Execute.
Yeah, nice to
We're
have
doing
you.
good.
So, Astropub, you know a little bit about, so we'll ask this NonStopBops, but the reason I brought NonStopBops along is he's a bit of a PvPer, and he's a big fan of Vandal ships, and me and Grim had a discussion with him, and so I thought I'd bring him along and join him in with Astropub, that knows all the lore and stuff, and we're going to talk about some of the leaks that basically popped out this week, and what we think that kind of means for the game. That's kind of where we're going with for today. So what actually happened was on the, if I pop it over to this, I'll take us over to the browser. Give me a second. My browser buttons are not working today. I've got to do everything with a mouse, so I will be a little bit slow on the transitions today, so please forgive me. So this was dropped on the Danny Whatever Discord, or formerly Hater118 of SC Leaks and Pipeline. And what they found was, or the person that found it was this guy called Russell, or Rustle. On the Robert Space Industries website, they had 3 links up that basically pointed when they looked into the details of these 3 ships. Now, obviously, Amble Paladin being straight to flyable there, so we can kind of, we're going to use this one for a little bit of evidence on the other 2, but really we're not going to be talking too much about the Paladin today because we've obviously talked about it before. But the 2 we're really interested in, and they're both interesting for different reasons, is Esperia Stinger, which is clearly a Vandal ship reworked by Esperia. And the second one here, which is probably interesting because the manufacturer's one we've never heard of before, which is the Grey Market's Shiv. Grey Market being kind of like the manufacturer, or what we'll talk about later is, I think it might be a conversion place, a little bit like Cousin Crows, like what they did with the Kraken Privateer. But we'll go through all that and weigh up those pros and cons. So, gents, I'll leave it up to you guys. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start on the Stinger, or do you want to start on the Grey Market Shiv? What's your?
I think we should probably start with the Stinger, just because the Grey Market's got so much more variability. There's so much we don't know about it, whereas we know the Stinger.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Okay. So the Stinger. This is the wiki page. So if you want to look this up for yourself, you can simply search for Star Citizen Stinger, and this will come up. The Stinger has been in the game for a ridiculously long time. If I actually go through some of the images here on the wiki, you can obviously see these ones taken from the trailer and some older ones from Sneak Peek, but it goes really far back, the concepts. And there were ones of this kind of, you know, when the, how long ago that would have been now? You know when Disco left the FTP server on the background of the whiteboard? That was where this kind of all came out from. And
2016.
I think, yeah, 2016. So it's been a hot minute. And I think, I don't know about you, but I think the name, and I'll put this to you too, Bops, I think it comes from the missiles, because it has a lot of them, compared to a normal ship of that size. Or is there another reason, Paul, that you know?
No, I think it's just the missiles make sense. Go ahead, Bobs.
Yeah, I was gonna say it comes down to 2 things. Right? Either it's missile orientated. Stinger is a reference we know to missiles in real life with things like the Stinger missile launcher and whatnot. Or they had this idea for one big gun being the Stinger tail of like a Scorpion or whatever. So
yeah, true, with the little turret on top. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
So yeah, they still do have the missiles here in the newer variant. It's just a little bit harder to see because they're also a little bit more dark and gloomy. But if I go back to that original shot, you can just kind of make them out here across the wing. So they are still integrated in there. I think for where I'd want to start with this is kind of what we think it actually is. And I know you know a lot about the weapons, Bobs, and we went through on your stream with myself and Grim, and we kind of were able to work out what the weapons were. So do you want to talk about that a little bit? And I'll just change the image you want me to change to and change back as you need me to. So yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I mean, it seems like the layout's pretty straightforward, which is good because often with new ships, the layout can be a little bit more confusing. But you can see mounted next to the cockpit, right in the center, is what looks to be the same. I think it's called the Wraith, the size 5 from the Glaive, which is currently in the game. If you look at the Glaive rework, the model is almost identical to the little mounted guns in the wings of the Glaive. Then the next row out, which are symmetrical.
Real quick,
go ahead.
it actually does list the old specs here of weapons and stuff, and they have it listed here as a plasma cannon. So I'd say that's the equivalency of that. And I would say from what we're seeing here that these are not correct anymore. I just want to highlight that.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah. So yeah, size 5. What'd you call it?
I think it's called a Wraith. I'm pretty sure it's either a Wraith or a War. They've changed the name a couple of times.
Formerly plasma,
back and forth,
formerly plasma gun.
It's still a plasma.
Correct.
All Vandal weapons are plasma or energy based. Like they don't use ballistics. So
next row out. The first two.
So the inner ones, these ones. Yep.
Correct. If you go to the scythe, the new scythe rework, I believe it's called a Warlord or a War itself, which is this little one that's mounted in the inside of its wing here. I mean, it's almost identical. It's got the ribs along the front of it. It's got the little beaks that extend from the front, the little fangs. So that's a size 3, I believe. It's like a double fire plasma gun. It's really, really very cool. Which means, I assume, that this will be firing burst on those two guns either side from the wing, which is going to be very, very cool if it is identical.
I'd recommend for anyone that thinks they look a little different, go look at them. They are in different lighting, because obviously this one here's got a lot of underlighting, but you can kind of make out the ribs along the outside of it in both shots. So I'd say it's fairly on point there. And what about these outer ones?
And the mandibles on the tip too. If you watch the video, obviously this screenshot here of the Stinger is... it's a still shot, but you can watch this in the Squadron 42 trailer. Yeah, so you'll get more of a visual of it.
So there's like two little claws on the end that essentially mandibles. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I can see those. Yeah. And then the outer ones.
And then outer ones, I think. Now these are the ones that are up in the air because we haven't seen the new blade model yet. We've got the current blade, but I assume there's a new blade model if there's a new glaive model and there's a new scythe model. I believe they're going to be the size 2 laser cannons that come on the underwings of the blade. Originally, I thought they were going to be size 3s, but I think they're going to be the not laser cannons, plasma cannons that sit on the outside of the blade, or there's something new because I was going through last night with my stream and I can't find an image of a gun that matches these. So I think maybe 2 3s 5s, maybe 3s 5s. That's what I think.
It is hard to tell. I kind of think if they're 4s, the next ones would be 3s, just based on their size. Because the other thing is the turrets meant to have size 2s on top, and they're significantly a lot smaller. So
yeah, we were talking about that.
All right, we can always wait and see on those ones. But again, there's nothing there that kind of really takes it outside of what I thought it was. I kind of have been going a little bit back and forward all over the place as I've talked to people in the last couple of days. Like I've gone between missile gunboat because it had all the missiles to like a gunship and then kind of back to a heavy fighter, and I think it's got little elements of everything. So almost imagine like a heavy fighter that's got lots of missiles, but it's also got extra guns because it's Vandal, and all Vandal ships are kind of combat based. So I'm a little bit in between all that. Paul, what's your kind of thoughts on what lore based of the Vandal? What do you think is the most I can see all 3 of those from the Vandal, but I guess I just want your personal take on where you think what you're thinking at the moment, so to speak.
For the ship?
Yeah,
the ship's like main role.
Yeah, where do you think it's going to land, so to speak?
Well, we know the Stinger's a heavy fighter, and it's in lore. It's been mentioned as a heavy fighter. Specifically, the Saber has been said to have been built specifically to counter this ship, which is an interesting choice since it's a medium stealth fighter versus a heavy fighter. So I don't know how that's supposed to work.
Mobility, right?
Yeah,
it might mean it's sluggish. It might mean that this is sluggish.
Yeah.
And I think the medium the Saber, correct me if I'm wrong, is more towards a light fighter role of most of the mediums.
Correct. Yeah.
So it makes it even more maneuverable. And it is very shield based as well. So,
which sort of makes sense because the energy weapons and plasma weapons that you see that are used by the Vandal are designed to strip armor away. So they're designed to just smash into hardened targets and rip them to pieces. So shields are going to be not a hard counter, but they're going to slow down a lot of those things. We saw it in the prologue where like a fully charged Kingship can be Kingship shop can be deflected by a Bengal shield. It's not pretty, but it can stop it. So,
and this is already represented in the mechanics at the moment anyway. If you take out a glaive or a blade, I think the glaives size 5s are doing 700 damage or something like this. So if you get through something shields and you actually hit the squishy part underneath, you will rip it apart very, 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 very quickly. So they've started to lean towards exactly what you're talking about, Paul. Obviously, when armor comes in, it'll adjust, but for now, it already plays like that.
And the thing about this is that its heaviness, as we can see already in some of the videos playing right now, it's clearly used by elite pilots from the Vandal. So it's probably more of a sort of ace pilot combat ship. So it's gonna be we don't know how many people it's required, but it could be anywhere between 1 and 3, but it's clearly a soloable ship. So
it's
exciting.
it is exciting because my brain I remember back in the day. Now I don't know if you guys remember it definitely, but I remember when the glaive first dropped, it was listed as heavy fighter, and now it's medium, much as the same as the scythe. So I don't know if that's changed or when that changed, but I heavily remember it being heavy fighter. But maybe I've just remembered really wrong.
It was a heavy fighter at some point, but CIG changes their classifications like they changed t-shirts. So
I think that's been done
with the recent rework. It now has the same, almost an identical handling profile to the Saber. It's got 60 pitch. So the glaive, while it has issues, and I've talked about this with you, Execute, right now the convergence rate of its size 5s are like 5 or 6 meters back from where they should be because the new model has those guns tucked.
We can actually probably show that if you give me a second.
No worries. But they've actually changed the pitch of the glaive to make it like a absolute monster in a rate fight. So it just needs those guns fixed.
So what he's talking about is this is the new one, and you can see the guns are back near the midsection. You go to the old one. I'm gonna have to find the old one now. Give me a second. Unless they don't have the old one in all these. No, they don't. Great. Got rid of it. There is one that showed the old one somewhere, but basically, I can't find it. It's not coming up.
So the guns finish right at the tips of the wings on the glaive at current, in its current model, right up at the front, about 5 to 7 meters further forward. So when you're firing at a target, the convergence rate of those bullets when you're locked, because your convergent rate is fixed once you lock a target. You can change it outside of lock, but you can't change it in a lock. Once you lock a target, they're actually converging behind the target. So you have to do these you basically have to fly side on to get your guns to connect. Otherwise, the convergent rate causes problems. If this model was out, well, the projectiles would be traveling from 5 to 7 meters back, and they would be directly connecting with the targets.
So it's like you're using the old model, but they've updated it already for the new ship. So basically, they're converging 5 meters behind where they should be, essentially. So they're a bit out of whack for now. But again, it kind of makes sense. I think that
this, like I said, this has had the rework, so it is handling it's handling phenomenally. It doesn't handle like a heavy fighter anymore. It handles great.
I think I'll ask you that too as well while we're kind of here, Paul. Especially, I know what Bops kind of thinks as well. But what we're thinking is that basically, either at Citizencon or AOE, that we're likely to see the release of these reskinned glaive, blade, and scythe. What do you think about that? Do you think that's on the cards?
Almost certainly. Like, I don't see CIG releasing the Stinger without the updates to the rest of the to the things. They we'll get to this when we talk about the Graves Market stuff, but it's very clear that CIG's been dipping heavy into Squadron 42 assets. They've been trying to reuse assets as much as possible. Hathor and Stormbreaker are both reused assets from Arena Commander and from Star Marine and from the postponed / canceled Theaters of War.
Even the elevator that goes down in the current science wing is taken straight out of the underground. What do they call it? Underground facilities.
Underground facilities.
Yeah,
and I do believe that the ASD facilities themselves are taken from Squadron assets. They're from the Squadron kit, because you see, if you watch some of the trailers, you can see some very spooky looking facilities which look almost identical to the big foreboding like Onyx facilities.
And the storyline has the Vandal at the end of the science wing. I think it's kind of like there's been a lot of Vandal stuff in that storyline. I think it kind of makes a lot of sense. To like, yes, it could obviously just be the Stinger, but it makes a lot of sense to me to not leave that money on the table. And knowing that last year they did like all the Hornets and stuff, it seems like very simple just to do the other side of the coin type of thing.
Yeah. I wouldn't imagine it'd be very difficult if they're already bringing the Stinger in to bring in the stuff they already done for Squadron. Sorry, Bob.
No, I was going to ask, because this is something that I was chatting about last night with my stream, because it hit me. I had never, and God knows how, my favorite ship in the entire game is the Hornet Mark 1 military. It's the only ship I fly these days because I love it so much. But I hadn't noticed that the F7X had little deployable X foils on its wings and pop-outs. And then I started to talk more about the F7X with my stream. And I was thinking it might be the gap between Mark 1 and Mark 2, being that X is usually the designated for experimental prototype.
It could be.
So it might be like the step up between, say, Squadron 42 and Squadron 43. So I hadn't thought about it until last night. Yeah.
All right. I think that's kind of wrapping up where I want to kind of go with the Stinger. There is a little bit of external space in it, but not a lot. So I think if they were taking this from a Squadron asset to Star Citizen, I think that's probably where a lot of the work was done, just on the internals. From what I've been able to ascertain, because there is no proper visual, you can kind of like, if you like, again, if I rewind it just a little bit here, you can kind of see behind this guy and you can see the stuff behind him, but you really can't make out a lot. Now, I've gone through it backwards and forwards a couple of times. I think you're really looking just at like a small area below the turret or turret access, and maybe some components around on the outside walls, but that's really about it. I'm not expecting anything much more than that.
Do you think it'll be airtight? Because Vandal don't need they don't.
Vacuum.
Yeah. So do you think it'll be airtight?
I would put that to you two.
I don't know. I mean, I think CG could make it very interesting, because they do love their experimental air non-air stuff, like the Rock and the Mole, you know, with those sort of like dangle seats. So, and we know that the Vandal can breathe vacuum for a short period of time, so having it be not airtight may make sense too.
Well, it's a good defensive measure if they can do something that other people can't, just to make it difficult.
Yeah. It's also just more work to pressurize a cabin than it would be to just not.
It's going to sound like a really weird reference, but I remember someone I knew writing a sci-fi book, and in this sci-fi book they had 6 fingers, or essentially like 2 thumbs, one on either side of their hand. And so when these aliens fired guns, they had to hold down 4 buttons to fire the gun, because humans couldn't fire the guns because they didn't have 2 sets of thumbs.
Yeah.
So it took 2 humans to fire the gun to get it to work. I thought that was a really kind of cool concept. But yeah, but again, a negative for one race can, obviously be a security feature. So yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Last thing I'd want to say about it is I think after talking to you and then talking to my stream and then now hearing Paul confirm that in lore it's heavy fighter. I think this is heavy fighter, and we've talked a lot about the ships that blend, like you briefly mentioned. Saber sort of blends into light fighter, Hawk blends into medium, and there's Hornet blends towards heavy, and so on and so forth. Guardian blends down towards medium. I think this is going to be probably as heavy fighters get towards gunship. It's going to be the bridge over into gunship, but I think it's going to be the big thick one, I reckon. That's right.
So here's, by the way, I'm going to also pull this out because people will say, well, where are you getting this lore? It's literally from the Saber sale page. The Saber was built in 2945. It was literally released on September 9th, 2945. And it says Aegis Dynamics has designed the Saber in response to the United Empire of Earth's Navy request for proposal for a next generation fighter capable of outmatching the Vandal Stinger class heavy fighter in speed and turning.
It
There you
actually
go.
Maybe.
Bada boom.
it actually
Yeah.
references the Aegis Saber military ship sale there on the reference page for the Stinger.
Yep.
So that's
There
a
you go.
little lore there
There you
is, but it actually is
Yeah.
is there as a reference. I think the like we were saying, like how the Saber, not the Saber, sorry, the Super Hornet bridges the gap between medium to heavy. I do think, like what you're saying, Bops, that this is essentially it starts to bridge the gap between heavy fighter to gunship. So I think it's like, I think the closest to this out of the heavy fighters would probably be the F8. And I think they will be somewhat comparable. Like the lots of different sizes of guns is very similar on the F8. Like when you look at some of the other heavy fighters, they're either, you know, like the Scorpius is all the same. You know, the Ares is like that one really big one, but there's not a lot that have the little ones, right? And so
Yeah,
that's
multiple size gimbals.
yeah. So I think
Yeah,
that's in
and
the
I
domain
think
of
that you can't underestimate the amount of I'm talking game mechanics now, not lore, obviously. As a PvPer, you can never underestimate how much you can achieve with different sized weapons. It can be very limiting, and often PvP does boil down to the ship with, you know, 3 size 3s or 4 size 3s, and it's all Panthers. But when you can start to chop and change and put different weapons with different fire rates, you can get really interesting loadouts that can have enormous impacts. I'm talking bucks with Omni Skies and NBDs that people have been using to run people down because of the same shot speed. Or there's a video, a wonderful clip on my channel of me taking an F8, even though it has size 3 mounts, throwing 8 size 2 rail guns. What are they called? Sledges or singes?
Sledges.
And using it as a long range 8 mounted sniper. So you can do quite a lot with diverse mounts. This one not so much the Stinger because it's clearly going to be Vandal tech, but with other ships like the F8, it really can make the difference. So.
I do wonder if with the Scythe stuff and Vandal stuff as a whole, where they've got that kind of bone stone look, are they going to be a bit more armored in the rework or the update? I'm wondering to see where they go there. Like, do you want to talk about any of the changes you've seen real quick, like the missiles, the physicality of the missiles, all the gun buffs across the board, just real quick, so people, because I think that lends a lot of credence that this is in fact coming
for sure
because of that.
So there's a lot of PvPers will take a look at the patch notes and the patch changes. There's a great website called SE Performance Viewer that's really, really good, that can detail significant changes. And recently, a lot of stuff is being overshadowed by other massive changes. So, for example, the Gladius was king, and they nerfed it significantly. It's still king, but they nerfed it significantly, so everyone was talking about those changes. Then the Talon was nerfed. People were talking about that. Obviously, now ballistics have been buffed. People are talking about this. But what's been happening behind all of that are very, very interesting changes for the Vandal ships. So the capacitor size of their weapons was doubled. At one stage, they had 50 shots in their clips for guns that do 500 damage per hit, which was absolutely insane. They've had speed changes. The blade was able to be modified and have guns taken off it and normal guns be put onto it for a little while. Then they relocked them. This is all in the last 3 months. So this isn't 12 months of changes. This is lots of changes in a lot of recency, which obviously lends credence. They've changed the flight maneuvering profile of the blade significantly. Like I said, the glaive now handles like a saber. Crazy movement on that glaive now. And then a big change that no one's really talking about, I've heard it mentioned here and there, but no one's really talking about, is obviously ballistic damage went up. We're all very aware of that. But what nobody's talking about is the fact that physical resistances went down. And why is that important? Because missiles do physical damage. And missiles all just got massive radial increases. So the explosion radius of missiles have been increased significantly, which means they're going to be tagging you more when they go off next to you on your flares. And the damage that they do will be significantly increased because your percentage of physical resistance has gone down. So what time would be better to create something like a Stinger, a missile ship, then now when we're making changes to glaive ships and medium ships and missiles are receiving buffs. It also, I know I'm yapping away here, so but if this is something that has heavy armor, as you've suggested, we don't know this, but as you've suggested, well, why not have the ballistic buff to have some kind of counter towards it, especially with the introduction of the Perseus and etc. To have something that can meet it in battle.
I think you'd agree, based on what he's kind of said there, Paul. Generalistically, when they're working on things, they tend to be favorable when they come up for a sale. So I think that kind of does lend a lot of credence to that. Last thing I'll ask then is price. I think this is going to be a hotly debated thing because of how much the blade and the scythe and the glaive do cost, my brain logically goes to a place that kind of logically shows the next skipping stone. So we have 275 for the blade, 350 for the glaive and the scythe when they were released. It makes me think that it's got to be like 450, 375. Sorry, 450, 475 in that kind of area. Would you guys kind of agree, or where do you think it will land? Paul, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be pricey, just because alien tax. So
and combat,
I think, and combat. So I do think that with its weapons
and missiles,
yeah, and missiles.
And
CIG tends to
straight flyable. There's a lot in there.
Yeah. But based off of its role, it's already in the 200 range. Most of the ships of its size are around $200.
Well, I think based on the F8, it's actually $300 price range. To be completely honest with you,
I would say if it wasn't a Vandal ship, it would be like 250. But then you add in the Vandal tax, the alien tax, add an additional 100. Then you look at the guns itself, and like the size 5, the 2 size 3s or 4s, plus the 2 size 2s, plus the missiles, plus the turret on the back as well. This thing is just stacked with guns. It's gonna go very high. So I would say anywhere between 400 and 500. So 450, 475 would be my range as well.
I'm just trying to
also considering everything else we've talked about, because we do know that the Paladin was like 250.
I think it's going to end up at 330 when it releases, because it was 280 War Bond, which is exactly the same price the Redeemer was at War Bond, and then it went to 300 and the Redeemer came out at 330. So I'm just expecting it to follow suit literally to the letter.
So if we know the Paladin is 300 and this is likely going to be more expensive, then we also know, just because of what it is, there's no way this is less expensive than the Paladin. This thing could be able to destroy the Paladin.
You're talking price points.
Yeah, price points. Because the thing to understand is that these were all leaked at the same time, this one and the Shiv. And as a result, there's a ladder that CIG does when it comes to prices. Whenever they do one of these sorts of 3 ship sale events, they like to do a cheap, affordable version, a sort of middle of the road, more expensive version, and a much more expensive version. And I think the Stinger is easy to hit into that more expensive version. So CIG, and I know people have been asking for the Stinger. I've seen people talk about it and post about it, being, especially after Squadron 42, I want that ship. I want that ship. Can I get that ship in game? So, like,
the amount of emails that I've written to Chris saying, "I'll pay anything. Just give me the King ship. Okay, I just want the King ship. Just give it to me."
You and the UE Navy,
I think he's right though. I think it's going to be super, super expensive. I thought about this. I was going to talk to you about this before we went live with the video, but I totally forgot. I got really sad last night laying in bed because I started to think about the Guardian MX. Now that thing has four size fours. It's a missile boat. It's a heavy fighter. It's 290, 280, something like this. So if this thing is heavier than that, has maybe more guns than that, then it's going to creep up. You said $100 for alien tax, and it starts to look more like a $490, $500 ship to me, rather than I initially said 440. If it came out at 440, I'm gonna buy it no matter what. But if it came out at 440, I'd just dump money and go, whatever, that's the price I paid. But I think it's gonna come out at 490, and I'm gonna be going, God damn it, CIG, you sons of bitches, as I hand over my money. So.
The other Vandal ships, being light and heavy, are the most expensive light and medium ships that there is. So, the Arrow starts at like 75, and that's the cheapest. And I think the most expensive light goes up to around, I'm just have to think about which is the most expensive there, but it's like, it's not past 150 or whatever. It's like that. And then you've got the mediums that literally are now topping off with the Super Hornet. What's that, like 220, 225 or something like that?
Yeah,
and then the heavy fighters are literally like 220 right up to 300. So you've kind of got these $80 windows. But then again, all the alien ones just get like knocked like $100 past that instantly. The Vandal ones anyway.
Here's a question for you, Execute, because I know you love this pricing game and you're all over it. Is there a world? So if, obviously people love their upgrades, and we've seen before in the past where CIG have priced something competitively enough that it's not too expensive to upgrade. Is there a world where they put the Stinger's price within range of, say, the glaive, where it's realistic to spend the $50, $60, $70 to just jump up, so it does end up being cheaper because they're trying to get everyone to convert their glaives rather than necessarily fresh cash it?
So I'm going to answer this in a different way. When we were on your stream, we started talking about golden tickets. And the golden ticket for the F8 and the F7A, they all came around about this same time of year. I think there's a massive potential for this to be a golden ticket thing. After you brought it up, I really thought about it quite a lot.
Yeah, okay.
And it makes a lot of sense to kind of have it as an event. Think about it.
Yep.
We're going into the we're going to do a a Vandal thing. We're going in down this Vandal storyline. We're heading towards Nyx, all this type of stuff. They drop a golden ticket. You finish that event, we'll give you a golden ticket to this, or you find something in game, you'll be able to buy this. It's kind of like you said, didn't you say, what was that ship you were talking about? Oh, I just got a golden ticket and now I'm allowed to spend $300. It's the same thing.
Yeah, it was the F8. I was about to bring it up. I still remember the day that I got my golden ticket. I felt it was a privilege to rush to the store and give them money. I was like, oh, thank you for this golden ticket and the ability to give you $400 or whatever. Hey, people have been begging for the F8A. An F8A would have similar firepower to this, and would put it in the similar range as a heavy fighter. Is there a world where the golden ticket is connected to the F8A instead of the F8C?
I don't think we've got anything in the files that point to an F8A yet. I wouldn't rule that out eventually, or possibility, especially with them breaking a lot of the things they've said in the past in the last couple of years. I think for this one though, like just considering where it's coming and where other events were, I think the other thing that I'd like to point out too is you'll notice that when I go to here, that essentially the Paladin is straight to flyable, but both these kind of mention that they're work in progress. So it's hard to kind of confuse, because obviously there's work in progress at the end of the Paladin as well. But does that mean it's work in progress for the website or work in progress for the ship? Now, based on where all you follow the roadmap like I do, I'd say the Paladin is pretty much ready to go. So the work in progress for that is most likely the website. So that means that because these two also have work in progress at the front, it's both the website and the ships. So I think that is pointing to at least one of these being talked about, like the Starlancer was last year, but in fact, and being able to be purchased, but not being available until IAE. I think that's kind of why we're seeing 3, because we know only 2 ships are coming out in October, but there are 3 being talked about here, and I think that's how you can explain that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if CIG sells at least the Stinger, and then says, "Hey, you won't get it until we have all of the Vandal kits in game,"
and they'll be coming at
Well,
it makes sense because
no, don't do it to me, Chris.
Well, apparently the rumored next patch name is Fight for Pyro. So we're moving now all of a sudden from Stanton back to Pyro, and then there'll be some kind of thing that happens there, and the event will push through into Nyx. I think that's the plan. Now, whether or not we get Nyx this year, or the storyline's kicked down the road because something happens, I think that's where they were intending to go. So Pyro next month at Citizencon, and then Nyx was due for IAE. I think that was the original plan. I don't know if it'll happen, but that just seems to be the logical progression of what they were planning. I don't know what you guys think of that, but yeah, feel free to throw me under the bus if you think different.
Well, we also have other leaks that have come out specifically with the news flashes, which bring up the Shattered Blade organization, which has been taking Vandal ships and corpses and other pieces of Vandal tech and selling it in the black market.
Well, that's that kind of points to what we're about to talk about this one. Yeah, these ships are interestingly connected because of what we're about to talk about. Yeah. Go ahead, Bob.
But we yapped about and I'll let you finish. Sorry, just a second, Astro. But we yapped about the grey market Shiv for what felt like 2 hours. And after all we yapped about, we got to the end and I went, oh, hang on. Shiv is very similar to Scythe or Blade. maybe it's a reworked Vandal ship, and it was right at the end of our conversation, so we haven't really explored it so much. You probably have since Execute.
I have.
So go ahead.
I brought it up to Astro's attention as well. So yes, go ahead, Paul.
Okay.
So we know that CIG wants to introduce. So let me walk you down this path because this one's a little bit more complicated. It's almost for sure that CIG wants the players to be able to play against the Vandal in game in Star Citizen sooner rather than later, because they want to use the player base of Star Citizen to test the balance of Vandal and how the Vandal look and play and their animations and that kind of thing in a closed environment.
Yep.
And we know that CIG is specifically doing the Vandal through instanced events in Nyx. So with all of this coming in, the idea that CIG is going to be selling the Stinger makes sense, because they also are going to want to introduce the new fighters and stuff like that, the new styles into Squadron or into Star Citizen from Squadron. So all of this is moving in that direction of, it's clear that Nyx is a huge part of CIG's plans in the future, and it's probably a prelude to Squadron's release next year, at least for their plans. So,
yeah. Add in all the lore that's come through with the ASD facilities, showing us a Vandal in game.
I was going to say,
old mate talking about how he needs biofluid and he's probably going to Nyx to get it, or whatever, Jarrett or whatever his name is.
He's talking about there's a board there where it actually does talk about that right at the very end of the science wing. Yeah, he's right.
There's also a I don't know if the audio has been found yet, but I know it was leaked at one point where he's talking with some of the people in the facility, and in the facility they say, well, the ship isn't working very well. The hanging blade they have there, and Jordan says, well, they're made out of biomatter, right? And the guy says, yeah, the internals are usually made out of biomatter. And so Jordan goes, so it's alive? He goes, I guess partially. He said, well, have you tried feeding it? And the guy's like, what? He's like, feeding it. It's biomatter. It needs more biomatter. So there's a lot of things there's a lot of lore and information coming out about the Vandal specifically, which seems to be connected to either Star Citizen or Squadron or both.
Have you played the science wing at all, Paul?
Yes.
There's literally a mission where you put people into a box underneath the blade and you turn them into biomatter.
For the blade, so you can get one of the. It's part of the Operation Hyperion or the.
Stop telling me that the blades that I crash 25 times a day have feelings. Okay, they are not. They are just machines. No emotions attached to them.
I was saying this to Paul. I think I was saying it to Paul yesterday or whatever. I was saying, well, I think they might have stolen. Not stolen. So the Banu basically trade and take the best technology from different races. So they've got the engines from the MISC, they've got some of the human stuff. But I think what they've taken from the Vandal is the ability to grow their ships, right? So how the Banu ships are very organic, and I think that's what the Vandal are. I think they essentially grow their ships and then put cyborg parts into the ships like they put into themselves. So where a Banu ship is more just the grown part, it's a step past that when you get to the Vandal, and I think that makes a lot of sense from what we're seeing in these missions. So it's kind of interesting. All right, so now let's go back to Nyx just a little bit because I want to go and talk about the grey market Shiv here. So I think this points a lot to Nyx. And the other part I want to talk about is I think it's kind of like Cousins Crows. I think these guys are essentially taking either damaged or reclaimed ships. And I think there's two places they could be taking them from, both humans. But I think there may be in the future, I wouldn't say now because of where CIG is with ship development, but a possible future where they're also taking in Vandal ships and doing stuff with them as well. But I don't think that's out on the cards for now. But what I want to kind of look at is this one here this is a sneak peek from 2019, a visual teaser. And they have two little ships here that don't last very long. I'll just play this really quickly. Give me a second. I've got it slowed down just for visual purposes. But as you can kind of see here, is it's kind of Mustang.
Badass Mustang.
It's got parts of other ships in it too, like Hornets.
Look at the cockpit. The cockpit is almost certainly an F8 if you back it up a little bit.
It's really hard to see, and every time I press the back button, it goes back 5 seconds. So it's really
so instead of 5 seconds, just hit the little arrow buttons, the plus and the or the period and the comma keys. Those will actually move you 1 second at a time.
Oh, they do too. Oh, thank fuck. Yeah, that's made my life. I didn't know that existed.
So if you go back a little bit more, I recently discovered that. If you go back a little bit more, I'll show you the point.
It doesn't want
to. That looks like a cutlass or something. There.
Yeah. These are the two we want to look at.
Keep going and stop.
Yeah.
Before a little bit, you see that? That is an F8 cockpit.
Yeah.
That is an F8 cockpit. There's no way that it's not an F8 cockpit.
And I think the other thing
it's connected to like a Hornet chassis, which is also connected to like a Mustang chassis. So it's a sort of a smashed together piece with Buccaneer engines.
Yeah, different engines.
As somebody
here
spends
as well.
all their time in pyro, they look like Buccaneer engines on the back with the flare. As somebody who spends all their time in pyro pretending to be a space cowboy, this thing appeals to me so much. This is what I want, and you always talk about it. Execute the low tech is the word that you use. So there's low tech, medium tech, high tech. One of the things that I struggle with a little bit with Star Citizen is and I know it's because we only have Stanton at the moment, but everything is so clinical. You go to Crusader, you go to Microtech, even Lorville feels clean and it really like in its own way. And so this sort of like worked down low tech ship, this is what we've been waiting for, and it feels such a niche and it builds out the world. And we've waited so long. So while we're releasing Vandal tech, why not do something else a little bit more abstract? These look phenomenal. I've never seen these, by the way. This is the first time I've seen them.
Yeah, so these are one of the first things I thought of, and Paul was on it as well, even though we didn't really talk about it. We were both thinking the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
I think that it'll also allow them to bring in other ships and make them jalopy as well. The other way me and Grim went, and we did talk about this a little bit on Bop's stream, is how do you make, because ships are kind of run down, right, when they're recycled, or refurbished, or whatever you want to call them. Generally speaking, in the game at the moment, you buy it, it's new, and it wears, but it'll never be taken back to that showroom finish. So how do you kind of do that with a ship that's already worn out? And where we kind of went was greebling and repainting, like repairing textures, but painting them back as well, because quite honestly, the way salvage and repair work, which is essentially transparenting and untransparenting something, you could literally use that same tech, but it changes the color. So eventually one day you might be able to even be able to paint ships, is what I'm trying to imply, right? So in the future, you may be able to change the color or paint those junker ships. And also possibly the other way is, we know that they do, when they brought out the Fury, then they brought out the Fury LX, they added like lots of fins and stuff. So they could make up a greebling set that's basically junk pieces that could then randomly be spawned on the outside of the ship in different positions, then mix the colors. So basically mixing of colors, texturing and greebling, and no two of these junker ships could be the same. They could function the same, right? So say it's like this Cutlass type thing, but they'd never look the same. So when I pull mine out, mine's like a rusty blue, and Paul pulls his out and it's a rusty red, but he's also got one of the fins is a barbecue grill, because that was the greeble they decided to put. Do you know where I'm going, right? Because
I get it.
Being a junker ship, you don't want to pull them out and they both look exactly the same. Now, I think initially they will.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of like the Wolf. When the Wolf, because one of the things that Algrid found about the Wolf was the two guns, when they come off, they are stuck together. So they've essentially just brought that out. And I think you kind of said the word you used yesterday was like edited in post. So they're going to go back and add features to these junker ships over time.
Yeah, I think so. I could see that happening over a long period of time for sure. Just because, like, the fact is that these ships show up in Squadron in multiple locations that we've seen already. The Cutlass ship is actually in the I Held the Line video. You can see like
you've got that one. That's the year before this one. I'll see if I can pull it up really quickly while we're talking. And it's like
towards the middle end of it. Yeah, it's right there. You actually have it right there.
Yeah,
If you back it up a little bit.
Look at that.
I had it queued up. It's actually a little forward, but oh, you
That-
mean
that-
when
that's-
they
That's
jump
right
out
here.
the
It's
back?
right there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like right there. You can see it right there.
They fly out the back.
Yeah, they fly out the back. It's got like engines that are from a Valkyrie, and it looks like it has some other engines strapped to the inside right there.
Yeah, that's a really good
So-
shot of the
Cool.
engines. Yeah, so Valkyrie
Yeah.
engines. It's got some kind of different heat sink thing on there. What are these engines down the side? They're the ones I was trying to make out. That almost looks like Misk with the blue ring, but I could be
Yeah,
wrong.
they might be freelancer engines.
Yeah, possibly.
So, but the idea is
Yeah, that's freelancer. Yeah, that's a freelancer engine.
yeah. So
Okay. Yeah, but that's the same
So-
ship as this one. Is
Yes.
this one 100% same as this
yeah,
one?
that is the same one. You can even see the engine right there, where you
Yeah.
put, you know.
Yeah, just it's yellow in this shot, not blue.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, lighting can change here and there, but it's like the designs are.
Yeah.
So the thing is that I'm fairly certain that the Grays market is a junker version of a ship manufacturer. It's not really a ship manufacturer. It's sort of a what is it called? They call it the Cousin Crows conversion. I don't know if you want to call it the same thing or you're trying to look for a different name, but they were converted. It's not really converting, because this isn't really converting as much as it's kit bashing.
Yep.
So
Because they yeah. So what we're talking about here is
to use a term that we use in, and maybe this will become a term in Star Citizen or Space Games, but in the music world, if I grab my banjo or my guitar and I grab Fender pickups and put it onto a Gibson, and then grab a Maton neck and use a Maton neck, we call it Frankensteining, which is when you're taking the little bits and pieces of everything. We call it Frankensteining something, and that looks like Frankensteining to me. It's the most Frankenstein ship I've seen. That cutlass, it looks amazing. It looks so good.
the
what
reason
that allows for the developers to do, I'll also say real quickly, is that it allows them to be creative and just do fun kit bashes. They can push things together and see what happens, and then they can sell them as a new ship.
Yep.
So
the reason I bring out Cousin Crows is it's the only other kind of thing that's an outlier like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's something new as well, like the kit bashing, because of creative freedom that gives people. I would hope it's a kind of manufacturer, converter place, whatever you want to call it, a market that they expand over time. I wouldn't like to see them just do like 2 ships and then that's it and we never see anything else other again. I think the other thing is very obviously Grey Market is a roast at us, the community. For the Grey Market stuff that we do there. So yeah.
oh yeah,
I'd say too that Cousin Crows feels to me like someone. It's a company that tunes cars. They take very nice cars and then they tune them even more. You get a Ferrari, and next thing you know, you're looking at something that's tuned or made even hotter. I collect old Volvo cars. You're taking an old school Volvo and then you're dropping a different engine into it, changing the flywheel to something else, and all of a sudden you've got essentially a hot rod. These like the Junker or Frankenstein ships, they feel like something totally different. So I think Cousin Crows is going to be something that's more like above board. Come here, we'll tune it up and make it look good. Maybe do a light body conversion, etc., etc. Whereas this to me feels like a full rebuild with what we have. Right, you're taking a old a buggy, like a Volkswagen buggy, but you're putting a Mustang engine in it somehow. You're squishing it in there and then changing the wheels to dune buggy wheels, and you end up with something that looks a little bit more abstract and mean. And this thing is also just tickling me. My almonds are activated. Consider me activated. This is wonderful.
The 2 little things I want to add, I think it is clearly aiming at the Drake market. I think you guys would kind of agree with that. So in the low
for sure.
style field. And I think based on the name Shiv, if we've only got these 2 ships to go on, if it was one of them, I think it would have to be this one, not the Cutlass. And I think that's
so.
The price point, but also just the name. I think the name kind of fits something like a Shiv itself is very slim, slender and thin, and I think the Cutlass is a bit broader. The old Cutlass
is
I would say apparently a Shiv is also like apparently a small light attack craft used by the Navy, the navies. So it's a nickname that's been used. So.
And I was just going to say, a Cutlass, though, specifically is a weapon that is used in naval combat. That's where it comes from. Cutlass is a short, fat naval combat weapon. So if you take a Cutlass and you modify it and make it thinner and more slimline, maybe you end up with a Shiv. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know. No one has the answers.
The only thing that's a little off of is that I think these being sort of thrown together scrap heaps. If CIG sold them, they would be cheap. These things are going to be dirt cheap. Like I'd expect this to be cheaper than the Cutlass. This thing.
Cheaper than Drake, so a step under Drake.
Yeah.
I could if this is the Cutlass, I'd kind of name this one like the Machete or something, like just a cheaper version of that again. But I don't know. Like again, I am kind of guessing here. Like we always do say, there is a lot of meaning in names and stuff like that. But again, enough rope to hang yourself and that type of thing. But I don't know. Do you guys agree with me? That's more likely the smaller of the two, or are you going to just leave it?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
There was I also did a video on this recently about these ships, and someone pointed out that they all have names in the files, that they were leaked, part of the leaked file, so we know what they were supposed to be called, and Shiv isn't one of them.
I might have to get Grim and that onto that. I will get them to have a gander at that for me.
But then it's also important to note that remember what the Perseus was named before it was the Perseus?
The
Odin.
It was. Right, it was.
Yeah, so CIG has temporary names, and that was 2016 was when the leaks happened. So if these had a name somewhere in the files, they could have changed in the time between the files and now, because things change.
Yeah.
And they've said in Star Citizen Lives that the kit bash stuff that they do tends to come together a lot quicker. So it could even be something we've never seen, right?
Yes,
it's all speculation. So
it could, but the other thing is there's kind of been a bit of a pattern this year with a lot of low hanging fruit, which is just like really easy to look at the scythe itself. You know, that's taking something that they already had, the F7, the Hornets, and all that, like the F8. They're all things that they just had sitting there. And they know they need money to kind of market Squadron 42. So I think that's kind of why they're doing it. They're trying to take people off ships and kind of, they had to retrain a lot of people, you see. So I think that allowed them to.
That's what I say. And they've been doing the Valve thing that Valve does. I know it's a different gaming company, but when they bring on the new staff and they give them something little, for example, the Fury, right? Cutter, et cetera, et cetera. These were like given to the new guys and girls on the team, and
even the Golem,
awesome stuff that
the MTC,
Golem,
a whole bunch of little small things like that. So it's just interesting. I think that's kind of around about what all I really wanted to talk about. Is there anything that you guys wanted to kind of go into more, or have we kind of hit everything?
I will say that it's almost certainly a new manufacturer, Gray's Market. And I do think that those, no matter what, those two ships we see in the 2019 are part of the Gray's Market ships. And I do think that they're going to be connected to Nyx, because Nyx is the only location that is not directly controlled by the UEE, which has enough resources and space to be able to build large lineups of ships like this, even if they are scraps.
It was literally the first thing I said to you. I think they're based in Nyx. Based on that, and it was just, and that was because things you and Argrid had told me. So I'm not going to take credit for that idea because it was things that you'd instilled in me as Argrid had. But that's what I thought of straight away. I do. What about them eventually rolling some Vandal stuff in, knowing that they're having Vandal attacks? Do you think that's even remotely on the cards? Knowing okay,
yeah, definitely,
easy,
definitely,
easy. Yeah, it's you also got to remember that CIG, like something like 50% of the company at least has been heads down. I should say more like head bashing against a wall for like years, specifically with Vandal flight and fighting styles, building out animations and tuning up the fighting to make it worthwhile. So these are people, especially as many of them have come over from the Squadron Team to Star Citizen, who have been bathing in Vandal technology for a while. So them bringing Vandal stuff to the Star Citizen is almost a non-issue, because like they have been so connected to this specific part of the game's like balance and the game's design that it should be a simple sort of like, oh yeah, we'll just slip it in here, find a space for it. So and as you said, low hanging fruit, it's a low hanging fruit. They already have it. So
Add to that the tuning that we've been seeing, and then if I may take a page out of Astro's book, I do love the lore in Star Citizen, and I have a history degree myself, and there are always things that run parallel to history in the real world. So, things like the Mezzes and the relation to the Roman Empire, or the Vandal being literally named after the Vandals. Appropriation of enemy tech is something that occurs again and again and again throughout history, be it stealing the enemy's bayonet or taking enemy's warplanes in the modern era. So
the humans have done it already with the Devarin shields as an example. So,
there you go. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. I mean, the Ibram sphere, isn't that Vandal tech or something?
It's literally Vandal tech. Yeah.
There you go.
It's Vandal scanning technology we stole. And so the idea that we may even see something like Gray's Market end up adapting Vandal tech into its own ships to like kit bash a scythe together with like a hornet to make some sort of unholy abomination would be 100%.
Please give me that unholy abomination, please.
Do you know what I just realized? On that, the end of the Science Wing quest, they talk about him getting Vandal ships from Nyx. I wonder if the Gray's Market are supplying him at all. The Shattered Blade, but I wonder if the Shattered Blade's got any linkage with the Gray's Market as well.
Yeah.
It'd make a lot of sense, but we'll have to wait and see. Is there anything you would like to hear specifically, Paul, in the comments below from people watching?
Well, I'd like to say, because there's one thing we kind of stuck around with. We talked about it before this. We never really fully talked about it.
Oh, okay.
Which is the Flappy Bird. That people like to call the Flappy Bird.
You wanted to talk about that, didn't you? I forgot about that. My bad.
I will give the briefest of the Flappy Bird is that, as we all know, and I'm sure you'll pull it up.
Yeah.
It's the weird one, and I think the fact that we first of all we hear the Gray's Market exists, and then we have this thing, which is like, that's clearly Corsair. That's Corsair Wing, and we're like, well, that's got to be Drake then, because it's Corsair. And now that we know the Gray's Market exists, and we think that maybe those two squadron ships are Gray's Market ships, this could just be a kit bash of a bunch of things in the Gray's Market. Now, do I think this is the Shiv? No. Because look at that guy. Look at that guy right there. Right here.
That's not small.
He is he's very tiny. This thing is huge. And as we've been saying, we kind of hinted at, CIG has this ladder. If we have the Stinger on one end and the Paladin has to be a little cheaper, then there has to be something cheaper than the Paladin so that you have the broader price ranges.
Spectrum. Yeah.
I think the other thing,
this isn't going to be cheaper than that. This is going to be like $300 to $400. So
and also the Shiv is more likely a combat ship. And as I've said before in the past, I don't think we're going to see a lot of vertical flying ships until, because of the way this works, it's got to fly vertically. I don't think you're going to see a vertical combat fighter until they get the vertical combat flight model working for the ships we currently have, because they already don't sell very well as it is. And then take into account that this thing's how did I describe you before? It's like the Karate Kid flying mantis landing stance, with the wings directly up in the air, and it's like standing on one leg. It's very unbalanced, so that obviously kind of tells me its landing has to be a part of its function, because you just wouldn't land a ship that way otherwise. It just doesn't make sense. But one thing Grim did say is this does look like a few different manufacturers patched together. So maybe it is. Maybe it is. It's another Grey Market ship coming, and maybe that's why they threw it in there, just to see why we would jump. And again, there are parts of this that do look Drake. There are parts of this that look Misk. So like there's that giant flap just above. Paul, if you put this finger up, and it's that the other side. Other side, other finger, back this way. Yeah, that fin there's only one ship in the game that's got a fin like that, and that's the Reliant.
That's the Wolf.
You reckon the Wolf? I see what you did there.
The Wolf.
I see what you did there. But yeah,
it could be the Wolf. You never know. This could be a Wolf fin.
Maybe. But like, there's some diagonal things on the Reliant and stuff like that. But then again, there's a lot of spheres and that on it as well, which don't imply Drake. Then obviously you look at the wings and. Like, because again, there's only two ships that essentially you can break it down to, is essentially the Reliant and the Corsair. But there are parts on both that just don't work either, and there are parts that do. So, because I can freely look at the cockpit area, and it does look like an industrial Drake area. But again, I think it leads a lot of credence to maybe they deliberately threw this in to completely throw us off.
Yeah.
And now I think you're evil bastards. So I'm gonna say, if that's what they did, if this comes out that this was grey market, I'm gonna be so shitted because they knew what they were doing when they did it.
Yep.
And they were probably been laughing all years, going, "They got no clue."
And the thing is that 100%, if they're doing the Greys market, those two shipjacker ships from Squadron are going to be part of the Greys market.
Let's talk about that too.
CIG could 100% accidentally be like, you should have known this. It's been in our previews for like 6 years. We've been showing you these videos for 6 years. It's like,
So
if you zoom,
I've not got a whole lot to say about the Flappy Bird because, like I said, I've seen you guys speculate about this for years. I've seen Grim speculate. I've seen everyone speculating about it, and I'm at the point where I'm like, hey, could be Greys, could be some new manufacturer. For all I know, it could just be a structure. It could just be shapes against a silhouette. I have no idea. But I think Greys is the first time that something feels right for the first time after everything that we've looked at.
The last thing I kind of want to talk about is the stuff in the digital Citizencon goodies pack. Clearly, there's these two armors in the shadows. I think we can kind of agree that this is the one for the Shiv, and the one in the background does kind of now resemble Vandal looking human armor. I think that's what we're getting. I think it's just an armor suit for each of those 3 ships, essentially, is the digital goodies pack. Makes sense to me.
I'd agree.
Yeah,
because the one we do know is definitely a Paladin. It's the Paladin. It's basically the pilot from Aliens.
Yep. So the way you can tell it's the Paladin, for those that haven't seen, I can pull up an image on it if you want. Grim sent me it a couple of weeks ago. It'll take me a second. Just give me a minute. There's a lot of discussions between me and Grim. All right, there it is. Took me a while to scroll back. Is this one? So you can essentially look at the helmet, and you can see that it's got the same number on the helmet as it does on the Paladin's wing, and you can also see the chevrons on the chest piece, and the colors are exactly the same. And the bottom image is the most recent image we have of the Paladin. So I think it's pretty conclusive that that's a Paladin.
Yep.
All right. I think that is everything. So comments. Yeah. What would you like to hear in the comments?
I was gonna say what I want to hear what people think Grey's market actually is.
Yeah,
because like we're on a limb with this one. It's definitely it seems to be falling in place. And my brain, the second you and I started talking about it, my brain started piecing the pieces together, and I went, okay, that's got to be the direction they're going. There's no other way I can see without this. But I want to know what people think it is. Maybe we're completely wrong. Maybe somebody else has found some sort of like wiggle in that we haven't seen. But
yeah, it's a tough one. But again, I think it'll kind of start small and grow, mainly based on the fact that they've kind of been trying to use assets they already have, because the lack of like training people up. That's just kind of where my brain goes as well. So I am very interested to see what people think of Grey's market, and I guess I'd add to Paul's and say with the Grey market specifically, I'd like to know if are there some ships that interest you. Pops, what would you like to ask people in the comments below?
Two things. The first with the
you only get one.
Stinger.
No, you can ask it.
Oh my lord, unbelievable! I think that the Stinger is really, really interesting, and I'd really like to get their perspective on what they think the loadout's going to be, and more specifically the maneuverability. To me, I'm looking at it in the trailer, dancing around, but then its loadout says that it should be slow. So just what you guys think about maneuverability and loadout of the Stinger, and the other one is what do you think about the release of the Vandal reworks, the Vandal remodels? Do you think it's coming? And lie to me, please, if you don't think it's coming.
I think I'll add to both of yours again and say, and what do you think the prices of those are going to be? The Stinger and the Shiv. Do you think we're kind of like, I know those of you that have been here for as long as we have know that they do tend to do things at price points, so I'm not going to argue that. It's really where they're going to kind of land in those price points. It'll be interesting to see, but I think I'm not so interested in the 2 hours of Citizencon because it's going to go so quickly. But right after that, I'm going to be loving like flying around the palette, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I think we're going to have a good Citizencon just because we've got some cool ships coming. Basically, long story short.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it at that. All right, then with that, Paul, would you like to tell people where they can find you on the interweb?
Sure. They can find me at twitch.tv/theastropub, youtube.com/theastropub live. And if you like my lore content, you can check me out at youtube.com/theastrohistorian. And if you want to see stuff like this, where I sit around with people like X and Bops and talk Star Citizen, then you can check out the Captain's Table, which is youtube.com/@the-Captain's-Table-Podcast, or the Captain's Table Podcast on where all podcasts are, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of those. So.
And for you, Bops.
First of all, do check out all Astro's stuff. He's one of the best in the business. There's hours and hours of content, and it's awesome. So make sure you go over there if you like Inforunners. For me,
I
just
put it on
Bops.
every time I want to go to sleep. I just go, Paul, I'm going to sleep now. Hey, I do it a lot. Like I was
Sleep Squad.
But yeah, NonStopBops on Twitch. You'll find me pretty easily. I'll be there with a red beard, yelling and screaming and yapping at someone. All the socials are there too: Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter.
What do you mainly do? Sell people on what you do, mate.
So basically, I'm trying to build a very, very wholesome and wonderful community where we all support each other. That's the first and foremost. Is we work very, very hard to make sure that everyone's accepted and everyone feels supported. I mainly do quite a lot of PvP, but usually in abstract stuff. Yes, I'll get into the little fighters, but I also like to jump into a Reliant and try and take on Ruby pilots and see if I can beat them. But we also do lots and lots of educational content as well. So for guys and girls who are thinking about maybe taking up, even going for PvE, not even the P yet, PvE, and you want to just some little steps or little tricks, whether that be blow throughs or circle strafes, or even the basic stuff like learning about emissions. We go through it in a really, really friendly way for new players, and we're super approachable. There's pilots in there that literally train with Jonathan Winters that turn up to my stream all the time, guys who hang out with Virgil, and then there's guys who have only ever moved boxes, and we all get together and there's no judgment, and we work together to try and create a really, really fun and chaotic space for everyone. So.
All right. With that, then, don't forget to like. Wait, I can do it down here. Like, subscribe, and ring that notification. Well, it's hiding me. But that's kind of cool. Anyway, with that, then, he's been Astropub. He's been NonStopBops. I've been Execute.
He's been Execute.
See you, citizens. Oh, my button doesn't work. I do it by hand, like a loser.